Hi there. I'm Christoph, and I'm an academic. And I'm here tonight to, first of all, make a confession. There's something about me that you probably don't know, and I'm not quite sure if I should tell you, but several times a week, I squeeze myself into these. You don't believe me? I can demonstrate. I'm not going to do that to you, unless you have a fetish for a middle-aged man with skinny legs and love handles. Anybody? Yeah? Can I give you my number? So, yeah, I spend a lot of time in the water, and this is what I see. I'm going to demonstrate this one, how it works. So you jump in the water, and then you swim. And when you hit the wall, you turn around, and you come back. And once you hit this wall, turn around, and you go back. You see where this is going. And at this point in the story, I can tell you with confidence that getting a PhD for 4 years was definitely worth it because I know what to do next. Turn around, hit the wall, and go back. And we do that hours and hours. And the only thing we see is tiles. So this is pretty boring. And when you're in the world of sports and do other things like cycling or jogging, you at least get to see the world. You get to see the weather, the changing seasons, the nature, anything. We don't. So swimming is really, really quite boring. And we have to really find stuff to do. So we Google things like, hey, give me an interesting swim program to do, or you can type something into ChatGPT and hope it gives you something. But here's where's this a problem, and that is for any of like Google or any of the AI programs to work, they all work on scraping the internet for content. So they've got bots that go through the internet and they collect all this information, and out of that they try to generate something else. So you need to have content to create content. Now, the problem is for swim training programs, there is no easy way of describing it because it's kind of complicated, and one of the obvious questions would be, well, why don't we just use English? You just say what you swim. How difficult could it be? And language turns out to be complicated. So here are a couple of reasons of how this goes wrong. So, for example, we have homographs, wind, or wind. Two different things, spelled the same way. Which one do you mean? Hard to say. Homophone, two. Which one do you mean? Polysemy, I find this very interesting. Mean, well, it could be being rude, but it could also mean an average. And it can mean meaning. So which one do you mean? Synonyms, joyful or happy. These are well, they mean the same thing, but we use different words for the same thing. We also have semantic change if we look at the word gay. It used to mean joyful and happy, and now it doesn't. And this became a problem. So if we look at the airplane that dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, that was called the Ilona Gale, named after the mother of the pilot. And when the Trump government came in, they did this big cleansing of all kind of information on the internet that would be inappropriate. And so they scraped this information about this bomber from the website. That's semantic change and political change, both at the same time. Now, something is probably more important for this round of people, because Ambiguity can also exist at the level of sentences. So, which one do you prefer? Well, it comes back to the question, well, how do we do it right now? So how do swimmers know what to swim? And if you go to a pool, this is what you will see. So somebody uses a whiteboard and writes this on there. And if you can work out what to do, you either got a PhD or you're a swimmer. It's full of acronyms and abbreviations and symbols, and it's really quite weird. And in a way, it reminded me of a programming language, because that's what it is. It's a set of instructions meant for execution, and that's a programming language, really. So what we really need is some form of programming language for swimmers. And we already discovered that English might not be the best choice. So we set out to kind of remedy that. And we have certain languages like natural languages, which are very human readable. That means we can, without much exercise, we can work out what the meaning is. And then on the other side, we've got programming languages. And they're really good for machines to understand. They know what to do, but it's really hard for us to write them. And then we've got a little bit of middle ground. And these are called markup languages. And in these markup languages, it's a compromise. They're reasonably easy for us to read, but they're precise enough for machines to read as well. So here's an example of a programming language for swimming. So we have here tags like instruction, a length as a distance. This would be 100 meters here. And we have got a standard stroke, freestyle. So this now is an instruction to swim 100 meters freestyle. Now, this seems quite lengthy, but there are some certain tricks you can do to make it more faster to enter, but this is roughly how markup language works. So, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with programming. Has anybody of you ever programmed a computer? Well, we're not nice, so sorry for that. Anyway, for all of those who haven't done that, I think you need to get a little bit more excited about programming. So let's give that a try. Let's program something, and we're going to swim 100 freestyle. And the way we do this is we stomp, and this is going to be a bit of interactive, so you have to do something, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Good job. As I said, swimming's boring. So let's do that 4 times. All right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Wonderful. But still pretty boring, eh? We need another instrument. We're going to swim 50 backstroke. And this time, we're going to clap. Can we get this on? Good, thank you. So now we're going to clap. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. Now, to get it more interesting, we do an alternation. All right? You think you can do that? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. Now, one thing you have to learn about programmers is that we are extremely lazy. We don't like to repeat ourselves because it's just a lot of exercise. It just takes a lot of time to write all this down. Right? So we go all kind of shortcuts. And here's one of them. So what we do is we make this construction where we say, repeat whatever is in the brackets 4 times. Right? Wow. Exercise makes master, so let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. Now, it's getting more complicated. I think you can handle this too. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wonderful. Now, the crown jewel. Can you do this one? All right? Let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. that's how you make swimming slightly less boring. And so this is called the swimming markup language we developed, and roughly what it looks like, what you just did in there looks something like this, where you have a repetition in there, where you repeat something 10 times within a sub-nested loop of 2 times, and yeah, this is how it works. And overall, we have here a swimming program, the markup language in the middle, and on the right is what we then can do with it. Because once we have a computer readable, we can use the computer to transform it to anything else we want. And now I transform that into something which is, again, a bit more readable for humans. Now, we talked about repetition, and repetition is important in music and swimming, and as I said, swimmers get quite creative in keeping themselves entertained, and one of the things they do is that they hum melodies in their mind, anything but Baby Shark. But which brings up an interesting question: what is the most boring song that you know? And in boring, I mean the most repetitive. And with repetitive, I mean the one with the lyrics that are most repetitive. Love, love, love. I'm not familiar with that one, but that's a repetition of 3, so pretty good. Happy birthday, okay. How about this one? Anybody remember that?
Pump up the jam, pump it up.
All right, that's a good candidate, huh? Or how about this one?
I want you to take me to Funky Town.
Well, these lyrics are very repetitive, but how can you decide which of these is more repetitive? Right? They are repetitive, but who is more repetitive? And computer science has something to offer. And these 2 gentlemen, Ziff and Lempel, they came up with a brilliant idea. And they came from a different direction. And that is when you want to transmit information, for example, with the internet, you want to be efficient. And efficient means that you use some form of compression. And the way that they created a compression algorithm is by spotting repetitions. And when you can spot a repetition like love, 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 you can say, just repeat 3 times love. And that is shorter to transmit than love, love, love. So what we can use is the efficiency of a compression algorithm to determine how repetitive a song really is. And out of the most recent history, pop history, the crown goes to Around the World with Daft Punk. 144 times the phrase around the world. Now, how can we turn this into something that's interesting for swimming? So what I did is that I thought, okay, 144, that is 12 times 12, and we just do that. So 12 times 12 times 25 meters, that is as repetitive as you can do. So this is probably the least interesting program to swim, but sometimes you need a sense of irony with these things. But here's an example of how we can transform an interesting idea for math into something into the pool. So once you start swimming and you think about songs, you can start thinking about it, which one is more repetitive. Another thing that swimmers often do are pyramids. And that applies for not just swimming, for any kind of repetitive sport. So you do something like 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and then you go back down, 3 times, 2 times, 1 times, right? Very common thing to do. And for this example, I would like to take you to the beautiful city of Wemding in Germany. And in 1993, they had a brilliant idea, and that was their celebration of their 1200th anniversary. So it's an old city, much older than New Zealand, that's Europe for you. And they wanted to celebrate this with an art piece. And they hired an artist and gave him the task, make something nice, and he had the idea about a long-term art project. And the idea was that we're going to build a pyramid, and the way we build this pyramid of 120 blocks, so 10 years as equivalent to 1 block, and we're going to make a pyramid of 120 blocks. So in 1,200 years, we celebrate the 2,400th anniversary of the city, right? Sounds like a splendid plan, and you see a splendid pyramid over there. And in 1993, they just set the first block, And then in 2003, 2013, and 2023, they placed another block, long-term art projects. Interesting idea, really. And I'm not sure if you worked this out already, what the problem here is, but if you start in 1993 and you add 120 blocks to it, you actually going to place the last block in the year 3183, not 93. You're going to finish 10 years early. So the last 10 years are nothing. And this is a very common problem we see in computer science, and you might be familiar with in other domains. It's called the off by one problem or the fence post problem. So if you want to build a fence that is 4 units wide, you need 5 posts, and they only have 4. Now, what could they have done better? Well, the easy solution is they could have just started with the base. They could have, in the first year, just put down the base, and that would be 0. Start counting with 0. That would solve the problem. But as so often with like public projects or art projects, something has to happen immediately, right? We have to get started. We have to do something, right? Sydney Opera House. They started digging and putting in the foundations before they even had the plans ready for the Opera House, just to get started. Now, Matt Parker, one of the very good comedians, said like, well, this is a math problem and a math mistake which is going to stick with them for the next 1,200 years to be embarrassed about. And he created an alternative design which consists of 121 blocks so that they can place the last block in 3193. Well, that looks kind of good, but the problem is that it's like, I don't know, 7, 8 blocks high, and that's not going to be very stable. So I took out my Lego blocks, played around, and came up with a pyramid like this. And this one works, 121 blocks. And you can now swim this as well, where one block represents 25 meters. So we start off swimming row by row. So 1 block, 2 block, 2 block, 2 block, 2 block, 1 block. And that's how you can remember not to make off by one mistakes. All right. Prime numbers, you're all familiar with them? A prime number is a number that you can divide by itself and by 1, and that's all there is. The interesting thing here is that how do you find these numbers? And in computer science, this is a really hard problem because prime numbers are extremely important for encryption and to keep the internet safe. And so what we have here is how a brute force attack would work. So what you do is you just take a number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, number 7, and you just check. Is it divisible by 1? Is it divisible by 2? Is it divisible by 3? And then you just calculate them all. And that works for a certain number of calculations that works, but unfortunately it doesn't scale up very well. So in this instance, this is sort of like how the curve goes. The higher the number of the prime numbers you want to look for, the amount of effort, it goes through the roof. It's just impossible. So what do we do about it? We use the sieve of Eratosthenes. And the way this works is you start the exact opposite. So you don't look for primes. So what you look for is non-primes. So you start with the number 2 and you eliminate all the multiplies of 2. And then you remove all the multiplies of 3. And then you remove all the multiplies of 5. And then you're left with the prime numbers. So the search here is a search by exclusion. So how we turn that into an interesting swimming program? We create a program that has repetitions which are not the prime numbers, but are the not prime numbers. Now, we just had now a sequence of numbers, and here's something for you to do again. Here is, this was a sequence of integer numbers, prime numbers, right? A sequence of numbers, very simple. Here's another sequence for you. Now something for you to do. What is the next number? I give you a hint. The sequence is called the look and say sequence.
3, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we have, if you look at the previous number, we got 3 1s, 2 2s, and 1 1, right? And that's how the sequence then builds up. The problem with this again is that this blows out of proportion very quickly. So it's just the number 1, 2s, and 3s, but it just gets incredibly long, so we have to stop reasonably quickly. But we can transform that again into a swimming program. So in which we use 1 times, 2 times, 3, so 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. So again, it's very easy. Once you know the trick, it's very easy to do this in your mind while you're swimming, and that will tell you what you have to swim next. Now, these are all examples of interesting mathematical patterns that you can use to make your repetitive exercise more interesting. And it uses a markup language in the background to formalize swimming. And we've also put this into a Python programming language so you can actually program you've got the full power of a programming language at your disposal at writing this. And if you need more inspiration, there's a nice little book that just came out. It's called Swim Training Patterns, which is full of interesting, amazing patterns that you can swim that have their origin in maths and computer science. Thank you.
Thank you, Christoph, so much. Another round of applause. And do we have any questions? Everyone's blown away by your presentation. Out of the
You're
water.
scared of math, that's all. But don't worry, it's going to get worse because we've got calculators.
Anyone?
What do you think about with this one?
What do I think about? So most of the people in my line hate me because I don't think about anything and I don't count, which often means that if I'm leading the lane, I always get it wrong. It's always plus minus a little bit, and I'm not very popular. And of course, being a bit of a mathematician and computer scientist who can't count kind of gave me a reputation.
Good question, thank you. Anything else? All right, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Christoph.